Hi warriors, it's Hannah here and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, hi, I'm Hannah. Subscribe. Today I want to talk about exercise, how and why I haven't exercised in about 2 months, the consequences, any Q&As that you guys sent over. So without further ado, let's get to the why. Why did I not exercise in 2 months? Well, it started off with a trip to Iceland in March for a week. And obviously when I'm on holidays, when I'm traveling, when I'm seeing sights, I don't really have the time to hit the gym. After that, I was on my period. I then had COVID. I cancelled my gym membership. I was moving house, had my period again. Started my road trip here. We just arrived at Ars yesterday, and now I'm just settling in, getting some things done before I get back into a regular exercise routine. And my regular exercise routine, for those who are new here, is strength training, weightlifting, probably 3-4 times a week for half an hour, 45 minutes or so to gain strength. I clearly haven't been on that routine for a while, so I thought I'd address that today. As in what I've actually noticed by not exercising, how I'm feeling mentally and physically from not exercising, and what my plans are for the future going forward. As I said, I will also include a massive Q&A section at the end because I received a lot of questions about exercise in recovery, or when to start exercising after recovery, what kind of exercise to do after recovery, how to make sure it's not compulsive, and just a whole lot more. If you had any questions yourself that you didn't manage to send in, definitely leave them below and make sure to follow me on Instagram because this is where I often put out polls and question stickers for you to send over any questions for any kind of Q&A video. So yeah, quick recap of what I just said. I haven't exercised because of COVID and generally falling ill quite easily after COVID, and I think that's okay because I think when you're ill, whether with a mental illness or a physical illness, your body needs the rest, and my body was shouting at me to rest and it was clearly weakened, so I listened to that. And some people will push through to keep the routine, to, I don't know, be their best selves, but that's not me. That's not how my body works, and that's not how I want to treat my body. So I gave it rest, and then when I was on my period, I gave it more rest because it asked for rest. And clearly my hormones are a little bit out of whack at the moment, or maybe it's from the road trip and driving 30+ hours in a very short span of time, but my skin is breaking out like mad, like first year of uni kind of breakouts, and that is quite abnormal for me and quite upsetting for me as well, because I've always sort of identified as someone who doesn't have very spotty skin, and it's really silly because I never really had spotty skin because my eating disorder prevented me from really entering puberty until I was in my 20s. So yeah, now that I'm in my 20s, now that I have my period, learning to live with that and all of the side effects of that, and that includes being okay with being hella bloated, having weird and changing cravings, and giving myself rest at those times during the month when I most need it. And hopefully everything does sort of balance itself out, because as I said, my skin's been all over the place and my period's sort of been all over the place in this past month, and I don't know if that has to do with the travel or with my sort of recent diagnosis of polycystic ovary syndrome, but yeah, whatever it is, we'll see how it goes, and we'll just keep being kind to the body that deserves all of this kindness, and that does so much for me. So throughout all of this, have I changed what I eat? No. As I said in my last video, there's definitely times where I'm less hungry than I might be at other times, and I do listen to that, as in I might eat a little bit less or a little bit more on some days. But on the whole, you know, my body still does need fuel. So whilst on the road, I had a lot of baguettes in France, I had a lot of meals out and quite a few drinks as well. And that's fine. Even when I'm not exercising, I might be walking around to see sights, and even on the days where I'm not, where I'm just sat at my desk working or in the car driving, I need the fuel for my concentration. I need the fuel for my body to carry out its basic functions. So I've eaten, I've drank, I've taken care of my body. Throughout it all, mentally, physically, physiologically, psychologically, I've still felt at peace. And I remember a time during my eating disorder where not exercising for even a day would have freaked me out. It was definitely an obsession. But nowadays well, quite frequently there's days where I don't exercise because I'm too busy working or doing other things that simply have priority, and that is fine. I can't really remember the last time. It's been well over a month, just because I enjoy exercise, I enjoy being physically active. But even now, with it being 2 months of a break, I'm feeling pretty chill about it. Though I am happy to be getting back at it as well, because I love the routine, I love feeling strong, it's my jam. If it is an obsession for you, then maybe follow my approach and take that break. Mentally, it can do a lot, and physically, it can also do quite a lot, but I'll be getting into that a little bit more in the Q&A portion. Starting with this question. Wat me opvalt is dat er best wat mensen zijn die zeggen hersteld te zijn, maar dan opeens iedereen te vinden in de sportschool. En jou zie ik dat ook bijvoorbeeld doen. Zo lijkt het of dat je na recovery opeens moet gaan sporten, wat toch lijkt op een soort van compensatie. So what stands out to me is that a lot of people after recovery, even during recovery, start to get into an exercise routine and a health routine. And that, especially after recovery, it sort of looks like a way to compensate for eating, or a way of maybe replacing the eating disorder. And I definitely agree that for some people, that is the case, because whilst an eating disorder is still very much taboo, exercise is, well, socially sort of pushed down your throat. It's seen as a good thing. So if you exercise, well done, even though maybe it is a way for you to replace the eating disorder and maintain that obsession and to give in to that little voice. If that's the case for you, then clearly that's not a good reason to exercise, and taking a break can be really beneficial. However, yes, whilst a lot of people after an eating disorder do get into exercise, a lot of people on the whole enjoy exercise. So for a lot of people, they may have enjoyed sports as a kid, had to stop during recovery, and then simply got back to it after. So it wasn't necessarily eating disorder triggering that interest. It was just a pre-existing interest that was reignited and allowed to develop again after the eating disorder, which I think is the case for me. Both my twin and I were always very active kids, and I really struggled during my eating disorder seeing my sister, well, literally be part of all of the sports teams at school, as I used to be, and then starting to do triathlon, and still doing triathlon now. And it's important to focus on your own journey and ask yourself whether your reasons for exercise are genuinely because you want to, or because the eating disorder is telling you that you have to. As I said though, for a lot of people, it's just something they've always enjoyed. Or maybe it's something that they've just discovered and love. Because after a period of having an eating disorder, I think it's an amazing feeling to feel strong rather than frail, to be able to lift weights and to see what your body can do, to focus on functionality rather than just aesthetics. This may mean shifting your interest from running to going to the gym. Or maybe you used to go to the gym and now you enjoy team sports. Whatever it is fine, but it's important to be honest with yourself, and no one else can really say that for you because it's something that's going on inside your head, and only you, know your own reasoning. Another reason that people might start going to the gym or start working out in some way or other after an eating disorder is because of physique goals. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, though it is obviously a little bit more of a slippery slope to walk on. In addition, you might just want to do it for health reasons. Whilst having an eating disorder, exercise is obviously not the healthiest thing to do. After having an eating disorder, well, it's one of those things that's part of life. You need to learn to deal with food because it's something you have to face every single meal, but also with exercise because I think some kind of exercise, well, it is healthy for you. Next, I received 2 questions about compulsive exercise during eating disorder recovery. So not after, but during, which is a whole different story. The first question was, I stopped exercising a while ago and started to eat really a lot of food. I still feel the urge for at least walking to stay healthy. And I still don't have my period back, and I think that my body may need full rest. Yes, even from walking. But would it be the right way? I'm so afraid because everyone else, even those in recovery, promote walks, Pilates, yoga, and I feel like I cannot just be sedentary and eat so much. The second question was actually just very, very similar about, breaking that compulsion and how to deal with the guilt when you don't engage in exercise, even when you really, really want to. So yes, people, even the recovery community, promotes exercise, and that's because society shoves it down your throat that it's the healthiest thing to do and it's socially acceptable, so it's so easy to appease the eating disorder by maybe eating a bit more, but also cranking up that exercise to burn a few more calories. Don't be that person. Don't. If you want to exercise because the eating disorder is telling you, that is your first sign that it's a no-go. But even if you genuinely think, or if the eating disorder has convinced you that you want to exercise because you enjoy it, still, take a break. Take a break to discover whether that's actually true, whether you're able to take that break without freaking out, and to just give your body the break it needs. Because especially if you're underweight, if you're restricting in some way or have restricted in some way, it can actually be dangerous to exercise. So not only does it simply maintain the eating disorder, preventing mental recovery, it may hinder weight gain, preventing physical recovery, and it may add a lot of stress on your body, preventing physiological recovery. By continuing to exercise, you keep making that choice, you keep giving power to the eating disorder, which I promise you, you don't want to do for the rest of your life. In addition, as I said, you add stress to your body, which messes up your hormones, shoots your cortisol through the roof, and this in turn has a whole range of negative effects on your bone health, on your heart health, etc. Especially if you have pre-existing conditions or electrolyte abnormalities, or if your blood glucose levels are really high or really low. And these are things that you might not even know about. Exercise could even be fatal, even if initially it feels alright, even if you don't notice the detrimental effects. And that is a really scary thing to think about. So personally, during recovery, I suggest following, well, my route to recovery and taking that rest. Once you're at a healthy weight, sure, you can go on some walks or do some light yoga. Don't go straight into heavy weightlifting or high intensity sports. But taking that break is, in my eyes, pretty much a must. How to deal with the guilt, how to deal with the discomfort, by sitting it through. Emotions will come and go, and it's up to you whether you give them power. If you accept that they're there, allow them to move on, distract yourself with something else. That's all you can do. So cancel that gym membership, take the bus to work, get a bus pass rather than walk, and do all the things that are gonna remove barriers and make following this new regime easier on you. Get rid of the temptations. Once you've done that, use your exercise time to get a little bit of extra sleep. You need it. And plan some other fun activities that you can look forward to. And that way you're not just left with a void, but you've got something to fill your time. And that's a lot better than just an empty space in your diary. They're tempting you with the idea that you could be exercising right now. And this is not, a lifelong thing. This is temporary until you've overcome those mental barriers, until you're physically healthier. And then you can get back to exercise. For the longest time, I wasn't quite sure when was the right time to go back to exercise, and it's difficult to, make a judgment on that because it's really individual. But I'd suggest waiting until that eating disorder voice is gone. You want to exercise for yourself and not for that voice. And also, I think it's important to, be physically healthy, be weight restored, be hormonally balanced, and that in and of itself is also quite a tricky topic, because what does hormonally balanced mean? What does weight restored mean? Does getting a period back mean you're now healthy? And obviously, whilst it is, a good sign that you're taking the right steps, and not having your period is, definitely a sign of extreme hormonal dysfunction, it's not the sole factor involved. If you get your period, you could still be having the thoughts, you could still be unhealthy, you could still be hormonally dysregulated. So I suggest, working with someone one-to-one, either sign up for some coaching. I've got some new spaces opening up now that I'm in Spain, or, talk to your GP. Preferably see a specialist, because I said, society's ideas aren't always the healthiest. Maybe for the general population, not people who are ill. But yeah, you don't have to do it alone. It is definitely tricky, but if in doubt, give your body rest. Rest is, never a bad thing. And even once you're recovered, even healthy, never eating disordered people need rest. Your body needs rest to function. In addition, and this is a point that your eating disorder may actually want to pay attention to, but in addition, when your cortisol levels shoot up, this isn't just bad for, the functions in your body and, well, a whole bunch of things. It also causes any weight that you do gain to predominantly accumulate around your waist, around your abdominal area, because that's how it's trying to protect you and protect your essential organs. So in fact, by putting all this stress on your body and by exercising throughout this period, you may be doing exactly what you don't want. You may be breaking down muscle and gaining fat in your tummy area. Rest is the answer. Rest and sufficient nutrition. And obviously, if you do rest and you do eat enough, it's still likely that the initial weight gain will be in your abdominal area, but you're less likely to have this fat to lean body mass out of whack ratio. And I think you just make your life a whole lot easier by doing this thing that may now seem really, really difficult. it's worth giving it a go. Next question, the one you may all have been wondering about. What about the mood boosting effects of exercise? My response, go and sit outside, do an activity you enjoy, play games, meet friends, and get the mood boosting hormones from that rather than exercise. Exercise may do more harm than good at this time. Focus on other activities, discover new hobbies, see your friends again that maybe you've been neglecting, and leave exercise for later. You can get back to it once you're recovered, so just put your health first for now, and it will pay off in the end. For too long, I tried to balance recovery with going to school, with other involvements, and it's just too much. Recovery is a full-time job, so treat it like that. Give it the attention it deserves, and then you can stop doing things half-assed and actually live fully. Anyway, if you're suffering from anorexia, you're not going to develop heart disease or type 2 diabetes or whatever if you don't exercise. Not exercising is going to be the healthiest thing to do. And there's actually some research that's compared people in recovery, I think it was, one group who exercised and one who didn't, and then they compared the bone health of the two groups, and the group who didn't exercise was healthier. Funny enough, after recovery, the group who did exercise was healthier. So as I said, during recovery, stop exercising, and after recovery, for your health, for your well-being, for whatever, sure, go ahead and exercise again if and when you want to, but just not right now, guys, not right now. Patience is a virtue. Right, on to the last two questions. The first one being, have you noticed any physical differences to your body since you stopped working out? To be honest, as I've not set foot in a gym for 2 months now, I haven't noticed any physical changes because I haven't been surrounded by lots and lots of mirrors. Also, to be honest, I don't look in the mirror that often, and for this video I thought I'd weigh myself to see if there'd been, any noticeable increases in my weight or anything like that. But I forgot, so I didn't, and I thought of, plugging in a little clip afterwards of, showing my reaction to any potential weight gain, weight loss, weight maintenance. But then I realised that I don't actually remember what my weight is or was the last time I checked. So I wouldn't even know if there's been any increase or decrease or whatever. So yeah, long story short, I haven't noticed any difference. I wouldn't necessarily care if there was much of a difference. Doubtlessly when I go to the gym at some point in the next few days, I'll notice that my strength will probably have decreased a little bit, but there's this lovely thing called muscle memory. I'll get it back at some point, and it's something to work for again. A month, 2 months, 3 months, even if you have to stop exercising for a year, it's not the end of the world. You can get back to it, you can make progress again, and that's fine. Even if you do lose a bit of strength, I think the benefits of rest far outweigh the disadvantages. Lastly, how did you get to this point of indifference? How did you become so free with exercise without the obsession? As I said, it wasn't always this way, and during my eating disorder, it was definitely a very big obsession for me. At home we used to have a treadmill, and that was honestly a demon. And even now, I haven't set foot on a treadmill after my recovery because just the associations I have with it are horrible. And I guess it doesn't help that it shows you all the stats and all the figures and how many calories you've burned and all of that. So for me, it's not something I'm interested in doing anymore. And I think on the whole, if you are reintroducing exercise and you're worried about, falling back into old habits, avoid the exercises that may have, triggered the disordered eating and the disordered thoughts. Avoid any exercises or apps or watches or whatever that show you your step count or your calories burned, etc. Stay away from numbers. And maybe find exercise that you can do with friends so that you can do it safely. When I first started exercising again, I would also check in with myself because I was terrified of relapsing into my eating disorder. I'd done it once before, I didn't want to do it again. So I'd check in with myself and I'd ask myself a set of questions. First, am I actually enjoying this activity? If not, am I not enjoying it today, or am I not enjoying it on the whole? Is there a way to make it more enjoyable? Or am I just doing it because I feel like I have to? Next, would I rather be doing something else? Sometimes it's easy questions you gotta ask yourself. And then, how would I feel if I missed the session? What if I couldn't do this for a month, 2 months, a year? How would I feel then? Would it cause me anxiety? Would I be okay with that? And just, generally questioning my intentions and my feelings around the activity. And whether, there's any rules starting to form, because as soon as there's specific rules, like you must eat this before or after, or you must do this for this amount of time specifically, that's when there's red flags going off. That's when you know that maybe you need to take a step back, maybe you're not quite ready, or maybe you just need another break to reset your thoughts around it. But when I noticed that, when I was asking myself those questions, that none of them really got flagged up, I kept doing what I enjoyed doing. I'm still doing what I enjoy doing whenever, I've got the time for it, whenever I want to. And that's lovely. For me, I had the longest break in exercise, and I was quite scared to get back to exercise because I knew how compulsive it had been in the past. And it was in fact my life coach, my hypnotherapist, who was urging me on just for, a bit of self-confidence, to feel strong. So I tried it out, did a few exercises, and that's how it tumbled on into, going to the gym and finding that actually I enjoyed that for the actual activity. If my body wouldn't have changed at all, if my weight wouldn't have changed at all, if it won't from today onwards, if I continue this exercise, I'll still do it just for the sheer enjoyment of doing it. So yeah, I haven't exercised in 2 months outside of, some sightseeing on a road trip, but I haven't been in any kind of consistent workout routine for quite a while, and in summary, it's been fine. I'm okay with that. At the same time, I'm happy to get back to it. I love the gym, I love scenic walks, I don't know, there's a lot of things I love. And I'm gonna continue doing them just because I love doing them, and just for the sake of enjoyment, having a nice routine, keeping my body healthy, taking care of myself, whilst balancing it with rest, proper nutrition, and everything else that forms part of proper self-care. Anyway, I think this video is quite in-depth, so I hope it answered all of your questions and more. Lots of love to you all. Let me know the kind of content you want to see whilst I'm here in Spain. Subscribe, like, love you lots. See you soon.